Mikal Mahdi is incarcerated on death row for killing a South Carolina police officer. Mahdi, who lived in Virginia at the time, went on a 3-day rampage of crimes in July 2004 that included 2 murders, carjackings, and handgun robberies. On July 15, 2004, he killed and robbed Christopher Jason Boggs, a 29-year-old convenience store clerk in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Mahdi carjacked a man and took his vehicle in Columbia, South Carolina, 2 days after Boggs was killed. He then ran away to a nearby farm in Calhoun County, where he killed 56-year-old James Myers, an off-duty police officer, and doused his body in gasoline before burning it. Mahdi escaped for approximately 4 days after killing Myers before being apprehended in Florida on July 21, 2004, and then extradited back to South Carolina to face charges related to Myers' shooting death. In 2006, Mahdi was found guilty of the murder and other crimes in South Carolina and given the death penalty. In 2011, he was extradited to North Carolina for trial and was given a life sentence for the murder of Boggs. Mahdi's appeals against the death penalty were unsuccessful, and he is currently waiting to be executed at Broad River Correctional Institution on April 11, 2025. He chose to be put to death by firing squad. Court records indicate that Mahdi's early years were chaotic and difficult. He was born on March 20, 1983, in Virginia and was raised in Lawrenceville. His father, Sharif, converted to Islam and changed his name. He did not finish high school and joined the Marines, from which he received an honorable discharge. At the age of 27, Sharif married a 16-year-old Richmond girl through an arranged marriage, and the two of them had 2 kids, including Mahdi. However, in 1986, Mahdi's mother moved out. In addition to not giving his sons any attention, Mahdi's father frequently had problems with the law because of his altercations with police officers. He attempted to support his family by working odd jobs, but it was unsuccessful. Mahdi's father sent him and his siblings to live with family in 1991. At the age of 8, Mahdi moved to reside with his paternal uncle and aunt in Maryland, while his older brother Salim went to live with his aunt in Texas. Mahdi also finished the 2nd and 3rd grades at Baltimore Scotts Branch Elementary School. He was somewhat of an engaged student, but he struggled with disciplinary concerns, including deference to teachers and authority figures, and his writing and reading comprehension were below grade level. Mahdi had low self-esteem and frequently struggled with interpersonal connections, according to school assessments. He finished community college and his GED by the time he was 21. On August 23, 1992, Mahdi was involuntarily admitted in a psychiatric facility due to a suicide threat, but he was released on October 19 the same year. In December 1997, Mahdi moved to Virginia to live with his father and brother when he committed his first break-in. Mahdi was imprisoned at a juvenile detention center after being found guilty on 2 charges of grand theft and 2 counts of breaking and entering. Mahdi moved to Richmond to live with his mother after being released. He was given a 93-month prison sentence in 2001 after being found guilty of assaulting a Virginia police officer. He was freed in May 2004, and Mahdi, who had also been placed on 15 years of probation, would go on a murderous rampage in 2 states outside of Virginia 2 months later. On July 14, 2004, Mahdi, who was 21 at the time, stole a set of Virginia license plates, a station wagon, and a .38 caliber handgun from his neighbor. He left Virginia in the stolen vehicle and made his way to North Carolina, the scene of his first murder. Mahdi went into a convenience store the following day in Winston-Salem and grabbed a beer can. He fired the gun point blank, shooting Christopher Jason Boggs in the face after the store clerk, who was 29 years old, asked for and examined Mahdi's identity card. He fired another shot at Boggs's body as he fell to the ground. Mahdi tried to unlock the cash register to grab some money after killing Boggs, but he was unsuccessful. He then fled to South Carolina with the beer. In downtown Columbia, Mahdi carjacked a driver named Corey Pitts and armed himself with a revolver before the actual murder. Later, he went southeast after stealing Pitts' automobile and replacing its license plates with the ones he had stolen from Virginia. Mahdi arrived at a petrol station after 35 minutes of driving and tried to pay for gas with a credit card, but the pump refused. After attempting in vain to get the pump to work for 45 minutes to an hour, the employees of the gas station became suspicious and called the police, forcing Mahdi to make his escape on foot. He arrived in Calhoun County the same day and went into hiding on a nearby farm, where he spent the day looking through the gun collection kept in the farm's workshop and watching TV. Captain James Myers, 56, of the Orangeburg Department of Public Safety owned that land. Myers, who had been a police officer and firefighter for at least 30 years, was then outside the farm celebrating his wife, sister, and daughter's birthdays on a beach. When Mahdi saw Myers returning to his farm after the celebration, he seized his .22 caliber rifle, held Myers hostage, and then shot Myers 9 times. Mahdi doused Myers' body with diesel before burning it after he died in the shooting. Mahdi fled the property in Myers' police-issued pickup after stealing the rifle, his personal shotgun, and his assault rifle. Later that night, Myers' wife, Amy Tripp Myers, a law enforcement officer as well, became concerned when she saw her husband had not come home. Myers' charred body was found in a pool of blood in the workshop when Amy drove to the farm and called the police. The local police in Florida caught Mahdi operating Myers' truck on July 21, 2004, and they trapped him in Satellite Beach. He abandoned the truck, ran away on foot, and even took Myers' stolen firearm with him, but he eventually dropped the weapon and turned himself in to the authorities. In addition to his criminal charges in South Carolina, Mahdi was also charged with Christopher Boggs's murder by the North Carolina state authorities. For this crime, Mahdi received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. He was sent back to South Carolina to finish out his sentence because he was already on death row there for the murder of Myers. While in the Lieber Correctional Institution, Mikal Mahdi and convicted serial killer Quincy Allen planned to attack and murder a correctional officer on the morning of December 2, 2009, the third year of Mahdi's death row sentence. Mahdi and Allen created some homemade knives and took metal strips out of air ducts as part of their strategy. They then went up to Nathan Sasser, a jail guard, and asked if they could go to see the basketball court. Mahdi and Allen assaulted Sasser after he escorted the two to the basketball court, stabbing him many times before attempting to flee by scaling the fence. The two were overpowered by the other prison personnel using rubber bullets and tear gas, and the escape attempt was unsuccessful. After being sent to the Medical University of South Carolina for treatment, Sasser survived the stabbing. Nonetheless, he had PTSD and started experiencing anxiety attacks, which ultimately resulted in his termination from his position. After being denied their privileges, such as visiting, outside recreation, phone use, and canteen items, Allen and Mahdi were later charged with assault for the stabbing incident. However, because both men had already received death sentences, the prosecution ultimately dropped the charges against Mahdi and Allen. After that, Allen kept appealing his death sentence. Eventually, in 2022, a federal appellate court overturned Allen's death sentence, and on July 23, 2024, Allen was resentenced to life in prison after agreeing to a plea agreement with the prosecution and waiving his right to appeal further. Mahdi was among a number of death row inmates who sued the state of South Carolina in 2023 over the use of electric chair and firing squad as substitute methods of execution in the state. The prisoners claimed that the firing squad and electric chair were unlawful because they amounted to cruel and unusual punishments and could cause the condemned needless pain and suffering. The lawsuit was eventually dismissed. The South Carolina Supreme Court formally signed Mahdi's death warrant on March 14, 2025, and his execution date was set for April 11, 2025. Mahdi had until March 28 to select his chosen manner of execution, which included firing squad, electrocution, or lethal injection. By default, the execution would be carried out via electrocution if Mahdi did not make a choice by the indicated time. Mahdi chose to be executed by firing squad, making him the second convicted prisoner in South Carolina to do so in 2025. His lawyer was quoted as saying that he chose the firing squad as the least of all three evils, referring to the execution methods used in South Carolina, because he was afraid of dying a burned and mutilated death in the electric chair or a lingering, prolonged death while strapped to the lethal injection gurney. Mahdi filed an appeal with the South Carolina Supreme Court on March 18, 2025, in an attempt to halt his execution. He asserted that his trial lawyers were incompetent and did little to present mitigating circumstances that would have prevented him from receiving the death penalty during his initial trial. These circumstances included additional information about Mahdi's early years that his attorneys allegedly overlooked. The state prosecutors retorted that Mahdi's challenging upbringing would not be relevant to his case. Unless something drastic happens in the following days, Mikal Mahdi will face the firing squad execution on April 11. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye-bye.